Welcome in. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio as we come to you live each and every day here on KDSJ 479, Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And we got a real good show. There was no audio in case you all are so used to it. We thought we'd jostle it up a little bit and switch it around. We will have highlights of former Arkansas Razorback, NBA, Chicago Bull. Bobby Portis had a big game last night, 26 plus. Yeah, the guy was just all over the court. We'll let you hear a little audio and see highlights from that ball game from last night as we get you ready for our high school segment today. We'll be talking with Coach Brad Stamps of Fayetteville High School. The Bulldogs 7-0 in the conference and looking really good. Things look to be going even better as they have a young ball club. We'll find out what Coach Stamps has to say about just where the Purple Dogs are this stage in the conference season. And then we're going to be followed up with Andrew Epperson of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. He covers the Lady Razorback basketball program for the Arkansas Dem-Gads, and we'll have Andrew on to give keys to tonight's game as they host also the Georgia Lady Bulldogs tonight at 7 p.m. Bud Walton Arena. Arkansas 16-5, 5-2 in conference, looking to get that sixth conference win. And then we're going to follow Andrew up with audio. We caught up with Cronin, the junior pitcher, reliever from the University of Arkansas. We'll talk to him about just things that he needs to, improve on and just where he sees himself. And then we'll follow that up with Otis Kirk of Hogville.net. Time to talk a little recruiting. Coach Morris and staff closing out this 19 class a week from yesterday, just roughly, I think, about 6 days away from National Signing Day. And then we'll also talk about some names in the 2021 class. Chad and his staff have been real busy handing out offers. We'll get some names that maybe you fans want to keep a close eye on in the coming years as far as recruiting concerned. But I want to real quick bring in my co-host. What's up, D?
Not much.
You had another conversation, and I got more information as we were talking about Yelta, Armand, Dre, and Ryan Pulley. These guys are getting a lot of love, it seems like, with the NFL right now. What do you attribute that to, that these guys were able to get an invite? Because this program hadn't been very successful here over the last 2 or 3 years.
Honestly, I really contributed to the guys that they're working out with. I had a chance to look at Ryan Pulley's Instagram, and I had seen he was with Golden Feet, and that's a really prestigious training camp down there in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So I really think it's the type of workouts that NFL scouts have been able to see and kind of get footage on and really get that feedback from guys that have consistently put guys into the league.
Which one do you think goes first out of the four? Who would you take first if you're an NFL GM? Out of the four guys coming from the University of Arkansas, who intrigues you the most?
Like I said, I think it would be Armand. I just think he, like you said yesterday, he is that he has that NFL ready body. I think he's the guy with the most amount of miles able to be kind of put on him. I think he's the most NFL ready when you look at physicality and the ability to play right away. So I have to go Armand Watts.
Well, Ryan Pulley, you think he'll be a third down, special package, D-back at the next level? What do you think his impact, in year one will be, at the next level?
It's going to be kind of it's up in the air, really. I really have to see how he does in the combine because Ryan isn't guaranteed to make an NFL roster. It's very hard to make a roster at that cornerback position right now. It's just so many elite wide receivers in the NFL right now. He has a lot of work, and when you look at the receivers right now, he can be considered undersized at that cornerback position. So, like I said, Ryan Pulley has a tough task, but I believe he has the ability to really do it if he gets placed in the right situation, in the right defensive setting. I think he can flourish.
Yelta, this is a guy, Demetrius, started off his freshman year on the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle. His sophomore year gets moved at the beginning of the year to offensive guard. Never had played that position. Well, I think Yelta played a little bit of that in high school, but it's a totally different thing when you're thrown in your first initial collegiate experience playing offensive line against, the likes of the Alabamas and the Auburns and, some really great defenses that, Yelta had to endure his sophomore year, but he got better. Where do you see Yelta, at the next level in this upcoming draft?
Yelta is kind of, I guess I would say he's our Daniel Gafford in football.
Right.
And what I mean by that is he's that type of player that he has a huge ceiling, but you don't really know where he's going to fall at that scale of playing immediately. Because I think Yoda physically has the ability, but I don't know if he has a sound technique to really have the longevity in NFL. Because physicality and the ability to play on the field goes way further than that. I think it really boils down to technique and really how he adjusts with playbooks.
Real quick, we're going to get on all assist Dre Greenlaw. I think Dre's going to be a third down package. Hybrid outside linebacker, strong safety at the next level. I think, with his speed level and ability to cover, I think that's going to really help, as we call him, Big Play Dre. But we're going to start this show off. Time to get it going with a little high school basketball talk, Purple Dog style. But before then, Bobby Porter's former Arkansas Razorback had a great game versus the Miami Heat. We're going to let you see highlights, and then we'll come back, and it's time to talk Purple Pride with assistant head basketball coach Brad Stamps. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a moment.
It's 30. There's a steal right there by Seattle. Good defense. Active hand so far tonight for the Bulls.
And here's Bobby Portis throwing it down on the run.
Nice.
Did rush. Robin Lopez got free and dunked it in.
Oh, I like that right there, Joe. Jawan Oldham. And that's what the Bulls have to be, that type of team right now.
Shot clock at 7.
Oh, get up and get out the way. In the paint. Oh, give me that.
Well, he didn't forget about it on the defensive end.
Clean the glass, big fella. Bring the Windex next time.
Done for the lead on a three.
Oh, give me the hot sauce. Just watch this block. Robin Lopez right now looking like a janitor.
Turned into a rebounding machine these last few games.
That ball is finding him.
Harrison flipped it up, baked it in, counted it a foul.
Oh, boy, Shaq looking like Walter Payton. Just give me a little sweetness right here. A little crossover, just run him over. And one.
Lester.
There's a steal right there by Seattle. Good defense. Active hand so far tonight for the Bulls.
And here's Bobby Portis throwing it down on the run.
Nice.
Did rush. Robin Lopez got free and dunked it in.
Oh, I like that right there, Joe. Jawan Oldham. And that's what the Bulls have to be, that type of team right now.
Shot clock at 7.
Oh, get up and get out the way. In the paint. Oh, give me that.
Well, he didn't forget about it on the defensive end.
Clean the glass, big fella. Bring the Windex next time.
Done for the lead on a three.
Oh, give me the hot sauce. Just watch this block. Robin Lopez right now looking like a janitor.
Turned into a rebounding machine these last few games.
That ball is finding him.
Harrison flipped it up, baked it in, counted it a foul.
Oh, boy, Shaq looking like Walter Payton. Just give me a little sweetness right here. A little crossover, just run him over. And one.
Welcome back. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, as we're making attempts to reach out and be joined here momentarily by Fayetteville High Assistant Basketball Coach Brad Stamps. But I want to go back over to our topic, Demetrius, because it's something that I'm really interested in, because I'm trying to understand, Arkansas, like I said, hadn't been very competitive football related. I believe, 11 conference games dating back to 2012. the year before Brett Bielema, so it hadn't been very successful. But when you look at this, they've had quite an amount of prospects be taken, and playing on Sundays to some capacity. What does that say, about the development of, this program when they hadn't been very much successful? Is it the coaching, or is it just talent winning over some of these bad situations?
I'm gonna have to lean with talent, because I think with the player development, to give the coaches credit on the player development side, I think it has to be at a higher rate. And if you really look at it, it's really not a lot of Arkansas players getting drafted, but it's a lot of Arkansas players that are actually making practice squads and lower level positions on the team. So I credit to personal talent and just the ability to soak up some of the things that the coaches are teaching these guys while they're at the University of Arkansas. But I think these players are doing a great job of putting themselves in position to make it to the next level.
Because the Armand Watts situation is just one that doesn't happen very often, for a guy to have 7 tackles over 4 years. His 5th year as a senior, finally gets the opportunity to really contribute to the program, and does, not just a okay job. This guy did a bang-up great job. He was one of the more, game planned, if you're an offensive coach in the SEC as a defensive lineman, by just some of the things that they were able to do, some of the coaches were able to see. Armand was a special ball player that, it just baffled me to this day, Demetrius, because like you said yesterday in our show, I was always a big Armand Watts fan, saw a lot of things that he was able to do both in the scrimmage games and, in practice, and just could never understand why the young man who had all of the intangibles, the size, the speed, to be a really good SEC player, just still baffles me to this day, my brother.
Yeah. And that's the thing about college football. You have guys like that on a lot of teams, but that's the politics of football, of college football, because certain situations can put you on the good side or a bad side of a coach. But I think the beautiful thing about Armand Watts is he met preparation with opportunity, and when his number was called, he had all the things in line, not just on the field but off the field.
Right.
And I think that's really what propelled Armand to really be in a successful position, because even if he didn't make the NFL, he gained his degree while he was here at Arkansas.
Right.
So I really have to commend Armand for being a true student athlete, for taking care of the things off the field. Although we knew as media people that he should have been getting more playing time, but he didn't let not playing football stop him or deter him from what really brought him to the University of Arkansas and what's really going to stay for him long term.
Which brings me to this thought that I had, and I've had for quite some time, is who's going to be that wow player for Arkansas this year? Which guy will it be? Will it be Pluck? Could it be Devon McClure? Could it be T.J. Smith? Could it be Dalton Wagner on the offensive line? Who's going to be, that wow factor that maybe has the year in 2019 that you didn't anticipate? That's something. In your opinion, who would that guy be if you had to pick a way too early? I'm going to say one, and I've said him before, Jamario Bell. I'm going to stick with Jamario. I think sometimes you get a sense of urgency, and if you're Jamario and you're watching what Armand did, that has to be ultimate motivation for you to come out and get after it. And it starts in the first quarter. It's going to start at spring ball here in several weeks.
Okay, this is a guy that I'm hoping clicks on the switch, and that's his name just went dry. You already know D-tackle I'm talking about.
You talking about Preston Guidry?
No, not Guidry. The man.
Sosa?
Sosa. I don't know why my mind went blank. I really want Sosa to be the man.
I have heard that many games.
Sosa, this is Sosa's year to be the man on defense. We know we have scouts
you got
watching
Scooter.
him.
You think he's gonna be more of a man than Scooter?
I think he has the ability to, just because he's at a better position of point of attack. He's that first line. I think if he can really cut that switch on, because he has a switch, when he cuts it on, nobody can block him.
Okay, now leads me to my next question. If you're a defensive, offensive coach in the SEC for 2019, what 3 or 4 players on the Arkansas defense are you going to try to game plan for each and every Saturday, either conference or non-conference, for next year? You have to take into account Scooter, obviously, but who would be your other guys?
Definitely Scooter. Like I said, one. See, that secondary is kind of iffy. I don't really know who we have returning on this secondary that can really just
Curl, Buster, McClellan.
I know guys are coming back, but nobody that just really pops off the page that I can say.
That's right.
That's really gonna have an impact as far as the secondary.
I've always been a big guy, so I think Cameron Curl could be an all SEC and
definitely.
a
He has
big
the
time
potential.
NFL cornerback. I think that's his natural position. But I do realize that you have to do some things sometimes, that you may not want to do. But I really think Jamario Bell. I don't know, something about his athletic ability. He has that body at the defensive end spot. He started off pretty strong, Demetrius, at the beginning of the year, and somehow the snaps, the reps, they weren't there as they were, the previous 2 to 4 games.
I think it was just guys fitting in better with the program. I mean,
Right.
you look at guys like Armand. They were just seizing the moment. That defensive line wasn't bad last year. When you look at guys like Randy Ramsey that just left, like we mentioned, Armand Watts. It was a lot of competition amongst that defensive line, and that's why. That brings me to my next point about going back to the guys that are really going to be critical on the defensive side of the ball, and I think it's going to be a few of those freshmen. I really can't say anybody that really just
Devin Bush. Devin Bush is going to be a stud.
It's going to be some guys
He's
that
gonna be a stud.
are true ball hawks and ball players coming in this upcoming class, and it's going to be a lot of returning guys that are going to have to play for their spot.
Talking about returning, Arkansas's women's basketball has a lot of returning young lady. I was looking at the roster. 3 seniors, 5 juniors, 5 sophomores, 1 freshman, 4 to 5 young ladies that's played in this program together for a minimum of 3 or more years. A lot of experience. They're going to be hosting tonight, Demetrius, on the SEC Network Plus. They'll be hosting the Georgia Bulldogs at 7 p.m. And we're going to step away. We have audio from Coach Mike Neighbors. He's going to give us takes on the Georgia Bulldogs and what his team must do to get to that 6-2 mark, 17-5 on the year. But and to follow that up, our good buddy, the guy that covers this program, does an exceptional job. He's going to be joining us each and every week to talk the neighborhood. Andrew Epperson, he'll be joining us for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. He'll be up next. But here's Coach Mike Neighborson, the Georgia preview. It's on the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Kind of a chance to step back and recap after 7 games, 5-2 with. Again, I'm not going to sit up here and change who we've been all year. We live in a reality world, and we talk about it all the time. We know our 5 wins are against the teams at the bottom of the league right now. It's strange to see Tennessee in that league, but that's where they're at right now. So we know these next 7 games are against teams in the top half. So new challenge. We are confident. We're playing pretty good. You'll have to play better than pretty good to win any of these next 6 or these next 7 games.
Led to that, and then how did y'all dig out of it?
3 games in 6 days. Poor planning on my part, poor execution on our kids' part, poor fighting through the mental fatigue. You talk yourself into be tired. They shouldn't have been, but they were. I thought Florida had a great game plan to start, and I thought our adjustments and settling in the second quarter. It was so diametrically opposed, though. I know exactly. I felt the same way. Your 7-point quarter to a 30-point quarter doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think that's what it was because we snapped out of it. If we hadn't have snapped out of it, then I'd had to have delved a little deeper. But I think it was a little bit of combination of poor preparation on my part, poor preparation on the players' part, and then the sheer volume of playing 3 games in 6 days.
Malika's numbers, the last 4 games, last 3.5. Just what have you seen from her that, especially 79 minutes in the last 2?
I think a confidence that she's not coming out. I think even for the first part of the year, we were playing IT 17 to 20 minutes a game. There was always that a little bit of look over your shoulder, and that's natural for a kid to have. She doesn't have it now. I think she's playing fearlessly. And I think she plays best when she's that way. So that confidence is exuded. And then I think as a result of that, she's being a little bit more aggressive. I think there were times early in the year she got tentative and settled for jump shots where now she's getting it back, getting it to the basket, getting to the free throw line. And, again, knocking on wood, she's making free throws in the SEC play, whereas she wasn't early on.
Finishing around the basket maybe better than she has her entire career. What's kind of led to that with her?
I think just an accumulation of a lot of days of practicing it. We've got a really rugged group of guys team this year, and they foul her pretty good, and we let them. So I think we've done that. Plus, going back to what you were talking about, just that confidence. But she's worked at it more, and it's accumulated more. And once she gets in there, we're all expecting it to go in when she gets around the basket or get fouled, one of the two.
So when Galden comes back from injury, then is that going to force some kind of tough discussions between you and assistant coaches on playing time for her?
Probably, yeah. Or we find a way to play them together. We talked about doing that early in the year. But then, we got in some foul troubles, and it just didn't work out. So I think the conversation will not be, does Mal play 38 or 39 minutes? I think the conversation will be, do you play them together some? But we'll see how that goes. But I think that's part of the thing that's beautiful about this team. We'll make adjustments as it goes. But yeah.
Welcome back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you each and every day here on KDSJ 479. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Lindsay & Associates, the Baymont Hotel, and Locomotion. But time to talk a little neighborhood, and what better way to catch up with our new guest. He'll be making his way on the Hill multiple times throughout the week. Andrew Epperson of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Drew, welcome to the Hill, my man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Pat. I'm excited to talk some Razorback women's basketball.
Let's get into it. 16-5, Andrew. You and I, now we've watched this maturation. Last year, not quite, what we expected. Losing speech after losing speech. They had a few players, you talk about Alexis Tollfree, IT Golden, Chelsea Dungy, and just the maturity of the other girls like Malika and Jalen, Kiera, Bailey Zimmerman. Talk about this basketball team to this point, and what are your takes heading into tonight's game at 7 p.m. versus the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, like you said, we definitely watched this team for the past couple of years, and Malika Monk was pretty much the only player who had really any offensive say, and really the only player that teams needed to game plan against. But then you get to this year, and like you said, Alexis Tollfree is a three-point shooter. She's had her games where she's not necessarily been just fantastically consistent, but at least in the plus-minus, she has been very efficient. And then Chelsea Dungy, I'm pretty sure most of my stories have been about Chelsea Dungy just simply because she's proven herself to be one of the top scorers in the SEC, redshirt sophomore. And then Malika Monk, we heard Mike Neighbors just over the break kind of talk about it. She started to get her confidence back a little bit, even though she has been playing pretty well all season. So if they can put it together, that pack line defense should be pretty good. They've shown that they'll go to zone. Offense is there. Could be a pretty good season for Mike Neighbors in the second year.
Andrew, the thing that you notice about this basketball team is most of the time they don't get off to really fast starts. But it just seems like as we get to the latter half of the second quarter and then that third and fourth quarter, they seem to be really locked in. They don't get rattled. What do you attribute that to? Is it just the growth and the maturity of this team?
Well, slow starts, like you said, have happened pretty much the entire season. But if we look back at this Florida game, that first quarter was just pretty much as bad as it could possibly go for them. And then once second quarter started, they were able to rattle it off. So I think it's just confidence. I think it's knowing that, a game is 4 quarters and not just a quarter, and you start to kind of figure out your opponent. They've watched film on them, but it's different when you're actually out there playing than when you're just watching film and scouting. So confidence and just having the game plan that's going to last 4 quarters is good for them.
Talking with Andrew Epperson of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and we're talking the neighborhood, Arkansas women's basketball with Andrew, as he will be joining On the Hill to cover women's basketball for us here on OTH. But the lady I want to talk about, Drew, she doesn't get a lot of write-ups. Bailey Zimmerman, she just seems to, and we talked about this last Thursday at the Alabama game, she's always around to get the rebound, the right pass, she hits the right shot at the right time. Talk about her being a senior and just, how good of your coach Neighbors you have to feel to have so many role players with maturity step up.
So we did talk about Bailey Zimmerman last week, and I remember falsely having the opinion that Bailey Zimmerman may not necessarily be the player who is going to make it all happen, which I guess that's maybe not false but true. And I talked to Todd Schaefer, who's the assistant women's basketball coach for the team, probably 2-3 days ago. Talked to him for about an hour, and without even bringing it up, he brings up Bailey Zimmerman because we're talking about analytics. And on the analytics side of things, Bailey Zimmerman is a pure positive every time she's on the court. No matter what lineup she's out there with, she's going to make the team better because she's going to the corners, opening up passing lanes. And when that happens, players like Malika Monk and Chelsea Dungy are able to take the ball and score. Alexis Tolfree as well. But what you see positively from Bailey Zimmerman is not going to be on the stat sheet. She's not going to put up 40. She's not going to put up 30 points like Chelsea Dungy does every once in a while. But she's going to do those little things and help the team by playing her role, which Mike loves.
When you look at this team, Mike stated it. They played the not so much the upper echelon in the first 7 conference games. Now it's going to get tougher, and it starts tonight. This 5-week stretch coming up, Andrew, should tell us a lot about the 2018-2019 version of the Neighborhood Hogs. Talk about tonight's game and the keys that Arkansas has to make sure that they hone in on. They're not the biggest team, and Georgia comes in pretty good sized team. What must Arkansas do to get this 6th conference win at 7 o'clock?
So let me tell you, I'd be lying if I said that I've watched a Georgia game this season. I have not. I've not watched Georgia's women's team play a single game. So to talk necessarily about what they're going to do, how that matchup's going to work, I have no idea. I know that Mike Neighbors is worried about some of their size, which is what has, in this early slate of SEC games, that's kind of been the matchup that Arkansas has gone against. He said specifically that they're not going to run the triangle in 2, which they ran against Mississippi State. Tierra McCowan's a little bit bigger than any of Georgia's players, so maybe throw it out there once or twice just to see. But whenever they do run that, it opens things up for the guards. And just by looking at the stats, Georgia's scoring is kind of well-rounded, so they're not just going to rely on 1 or 2 people. It's going to go through their entire, starting 5 and then go even into some of the reserves coming off the bench will be able to put the ball in the basket. So for them, it's probably just play defense, be fast, which is how Mike Neighbors likes to kind of go up against size, go fast, and see if some of those transition rebounds can turn into easy transition buckets. And who knows? Arkansas might go on a 5-game winning streak if this works out for him.
It all starts with guard play, in particular in the SEC. Arkansas, to me, Andrew, finally have a guard rotation in Chelsea and IT and Malika and Jalen and Alexis Tolfree that can match up athletically and production wise. Talk about the growth of this backcourt as to how this team is having so much success.
I think a lot of it is just kind of figuring out where players need to be plugged in and what roles need to be filled. Because I think early in the season, Malika Monk, when you look at her past career here at Arkansas, she's been having to have the ball in her hand and just make things happen and just hope that it works out a lot of times. That's just kind of what she had to deal with early in her career. And then she comes to this year, and there are other players who just need to have touches because they have offensive skill sets that the Razorbacks just weren't used to having. So she's kind of had to figure out that she doesn't have to do some of the things that she did in previous seasons, but she still has to be aggressive, which she's starting to figure that out now. And then with Chelsea Dungy, just go be you. You know what I mean? Just go be you. Like, don't try to be something you're not. Like, if you have a mismatch, do what you got to do. Those little scoop layups and little jump stops and other things she does. So filling out roles and figuring out which players need to get touches when, where they need to be on the court, that's all part of the maturation process.
Hey, my man, the initial introduction of you joining OTH, I thought went very well, flying colors. And as always, Andrew, thanks for taking time out on the hill, and I'll see you tonight at the Bud.
I'll see you there, man. Thanks for having me on.
That was Andrew Epperson of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, covers women basketball for the Arkansas Dem Gaz, and he'll be joining us each and every week to talk neighborhood basketball for us here on the Hill. Really good interview, really good info, Demetrius. I mean, new guy, he brought it.
Definitely, he definitely knows more about the ladies, women Razorbacks than I do. So I'm glad I can have somebody that really is educated and can kind of follow them a little bit more than I can.
Well, we talk about educated and following. We caught up with Otis Kirk of Hogville.net. He'll be up next, but also we caught up with junior sensation Matt Cronin. He's going to tell us, things he wants to improve on and what's Coach Hobbs really got him working on the most. Here's Matt, and to follow him up, talking a little recruiting, Otis Kirk of Hogville.net. He's up next. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
Definitely this fall, started out with Coach Johnson when he was here. Worked a lot on conditioning, trying to build me up to be the guy who could go back-to-back days on the weekend and stuff. And then Coach Hobbs came in and he saw something with my curveball he thought he could really help me with. And so over the past week or two right now, my curveball has definitely been improving a lot with him.
Where is Coach Hobbs been able to, as you talked about your curveball, but stepping in and really kind of taking over where Wes Johnson left off, and how has he been beneficial to this pitching staff?
I mean, I think him and Johnson go 1-1 together. They're both very analytical guys, and the thing Coach Hobbs brings that I think is just special is all the camera ability and the slow-mo programs that he brings in. It's definitely helped a lot of us with our game.
What is your game plan? Is the role for you to continue to be that closer that can come out and close games? Is that still the role they want you to have?
Absolutely.
What does that mean to you? You following a lot of guys, like a Zach Jackson, who was, dynamite almost coming out of the bullpen to close out games. How do you want to make that role your own and put your name with guys who have done it?
I just want to. I love being a closer here. I think I have the right mentality for it. I just want to be known as that shutdown guy who people were afraid to face on the weekend, and they kind of get nervous when they see me come into a game.
You talk about that mentality. What's the difference? Rivera, guys who come in and are closers like that have a very different mindset from guys who are just coming into.
I don't want to say it's cocky in a way, but it's a definite confidence in your mind, not a fake confidence, and where you're saying what you're going to do and saying you can do it. It's knowing in your mind deep down that you're going to get it done day in and day out.
A lot of new arms in this pitching staff. What have you seen from a lot of these young guys and the freshmen who could really be beneficial for you guys this season?
Oh, yeah, definitely excited to see a lot of these guys when they get out there in front of the crowd and see how they can handle it and see what they can do. A lot of new faces, and we're going to need a lot of freshmen to step up this year.
So what I'm doing today is I'm going to try to eradicate or at least mess with some hornets.
Welcome back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, brought to you each and every day here live on KDSJ 479. And it's about that time. Arkansas is roughly a little under a week, Demetrius, from National Signing Day, the finalization of this 2019 class. And we thought we'd catch up with one of the hardest workers in all of the recruiting world, our good buddy of Hogville.net, Otis Kirk. Otis, welcome to OTH, my man.
Oh, thanks for having me on here, man. Appreciate it. It's a busy time, of course, as you know. It's always busy, but kind of narrowed down with the early signing period. You kind of focused in on about 4 kids here, but it still keeps you hopping, especially with this last visit weekend coming up.
Otis, any new, twists or turns that we may expect, or is it just pretty much expected to be the norm? Get Ote, Spivey, Henry, Burks, Catalan, and just as expected, wait on the final 2, Russell or Henry, or both. Is that pretty much what you've been noticing throughout the last portion of this?
I think Jalen, Hudson Henry, and Treylon Burks are all pretty much locks. I mean, I think those are I think the 4 up in the air are Monte Spivey, Adonis, Chris Russell, and Lakia Henry. And let's start with Spivey because they will see him tomorrow. Chad Morris and 2 assistants will see him tomorrow. He doesn't have a visit this weekend, so that's why I said we'll start with him, because he visited Ole Miss last weekend. Matt and Luke was in there Tuesday. Those coaches will be in there tomorrow to see him. Chad gets his in-home. So Spivey should know something pretty soon after tomorrow. Lakia will be at Texas this weekend. They still got Ole Miss, Florida State, others, Arkansas involved there. Chris Russell will be at Tennessee this weekend. Still got Arkansas and A&M involved there. And then Adonis will be at Ole Miss. Southern Cal was made a big impression last weekend. Those, I think, are the final 4, Pat, to go with those first 3 I mentioned. And, you would hope that they hang on to Spivey in the sense that they don't have a running back in this class. And I think it's important to get at least one of those 2 linebackers. It'd be good to get both of them, but it'd be really, I think it's a must that they get one of those 2 guys, either Lakia or Russell. If they can get both, then they're sitting really good. I like the one they signed early, Zach and everything, but I think they need more than one. Like I said, running back and tight end, they didn't free safety. They didn't sign one early, but Catalan and Hudson Henry will take care of 2 of those spots. Spivey would take care of the running back. And then Adonis, he's probably the one I feel least confident of them getting. Not that I'm totally confident on the 2 linebackers, but I do feel like they'll probably get Spivey. I just think that, for one thing, Ole Miss is kind of a place where running backs go to die. You take other than Deuce McAllister, for the most part, running backs have not done that well at Ole Miss. That's not a dog in Ole Miss. Devon Penniman, and I can think of a bunch of running backs that went there that just didn't have much success, and some positions do. Dual threat quarterbacks. They had great success with quarterback, that took Patterson's place, but no, I feel pretty good about Arkansas, and they need to get a young running back. They don't need, I've heard people speculate, Pat, that if they lost Spivey, they would go for a transfer, a graduate transfer. They don't need an older running back. You've got a senior and 3 juniors on the team next year. So you got to get a younger running back there. You don't need an older one. And so, but I think Spivey will probably come, although it's not a lot. And then you start looking at 2 linebackers and Adonis.
When you look at this class, Chad told us back on early signing day, early December, the best thing about being able to get most of your guys that commit to you, inked in that early period is that you can move on into the 20 and 21 class. Right. They've been quite busy, Otis. I believe 17 kids were offered yesterday. They're really hitting that 20 class, receivers and running backs and offensive linemen. Talk about some of the new offers, that Chad and those guys were able to, put out in the 20 class. Maybe some names that fans and listeners that follow recruiting might want to keep a close eye on.
I like Deuce Vaughn. We all know Chris. Remember him when he was here, and Deuce, the running back down in Dallas there. Yeah, he was. Man, I don't like that kid. He makes me feel old because I remember when he. And I'm joking. I remember when he was a baby, and now he's being recruited. Like I had to scratch my head the other day. Like, man, is that kid really that old? So Vaughn's a name that need to keep in mind. He's a little run back who can just fly. They not in the last day or two, but they recently offered Blaine Toll, a kid out of Hazen, who I wrote on the 2020 kids in Arkansas this morning, Pat. He's got more offers than Criswell now. I think he's got like 16 offers. A lot of them are SEC offers. I didn't see that coming for Blaine. I'm not surprised Arkansas offered. I'm not surprised he's getting good offers. I just didn't see him getting this many that fast. It seemed like, and that's what happens. And you wait. Chris Harris from Dumas could be the same thing. Once he gets offers and they start coming in, then they could just, start piling up on top of each other. That's a kid that Chris Harris is a kid right now that doesn't have the D1, but I think once he gets them, they will start coming. And I think one thing about Chris, some people think he wants to play basketball, and once word gets out that he can play football, he wants to play football, and people start seeing film on him. There's a kid that I think Arkansas, but yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch of kids that they've offered, and just man, it's just hitting Texas extremely hard. We expected that with Chad.
Right.
But, the offers the other day, I like the two offers they extended the other day. Marion Harris from Joe T. Robinson, on Saturday, the 2022 kid. And then they offered the running back at Little Rock Parkview. So, I mean.
And then they offered me last week.
Huh?
I said they offered Patrick Jenkins last week from John Eric.
Did you commit, man? You didn't give me the story. Man, you okay? Yeah, I've got to check my options too, man. But no, it's just
last question. Go ahead, Otis.
I just gonna say, I mean, they're just offering at a fast rate. They're only gonna sign probably 20, 22 kids in this next class. So there's a lot of, over 200, not 200, but close to 200 offers out right now. So most of these are not going to be things that come into play, but they are offering some very good kids. And this staff's going to get them in here for some junior days, prospect days.
Right.
And you'll see some commitments coming up. It may be in March, but you're going to start seeing some commitments coming through. And when they do, they'll probably come pretty fast rate.
Which leads me to my last question, talking with Otis Kirk, covers Arkansas football recruiting for Hogville.net, and also, joins us each and every week to talk recruiting, covers it here for us as well on OTH. But last question, Otis, before we let you go, got about a minute. As you've watched Coach Chad Morris in the last year and 3 weeks of recruiting, his 18 and 19 class, and then you see what he's beginning to do in that 2021. Talk about this staff and how impressed have you been at their ability to get in some of the elite prospects' homes? With not having this program had so much success, how impressive is that going forward if you're a Razorback fan covering recruiting? Yeah,
I mean, I didn't think it was possible to get this many 4-stars, to get in on this kind of prospects, get unofficial visits. All we'd ever heard was the airport was expensive, or Fayetteville was a hard place to recruit to, and all this. The airport was too expensive, to get. No, they just rolled up their sleeves and went to work. And this is what I expected, possibly off of a 10-2 season, Pat. Right. This is coming off of a 2-10 season. I don't know how anyone could not be impressed. I mean, you're knocking it out of the park. But that shows you, this shows you what hard work will do. If you just go into a job with an open mind, anything, go into something with an open mind, not a preset notion that we can't do this, can't do that, or I can't do this, I can't do that. Go in there without any preset notion that you can't do something and do it and work hard. Good things happen, and they're proving it. I don't know how anyone could not be impressed with it. I'm blown away by it, to be honest with you. You and I have been in this for a long time, Pat. Absolutely. I've never seen a staff recruit like this one at Arkansas.
Well, Otis, as always, man, love having your insight. We'll talk next week, and I know you've got a busy week. As tracking all these kids all the time has to be, enjoyable, but still yet very, very exhausting. And really, particularly the day after signing day is, what I've always felt to be the most exhausting of all. But
yeah, it kind of hit you then.
As always, my bud, you have a blessed one, and thanks for taking time out on the hill.
Thanks for asking me.
That was Otis Kirk of Hogville.net. Does a great job covering Arkansas football recruiting for us here on OTH. And that's going to wrap it up for today's Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio here on KDSJ 479. Real quick, want to give a shout out to our sponsors before we get out of here, as this would not be possible without you all. Lindsay & Associates with a